Now, joining me to take a closer look at what the results of the election might mean for Peru's economy is Eric Farnsworth. He's the Vice President of the Council of the Americas in Washington, D.C. Eric, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So, Eric, as we heard earlier, both these candidates are the two candidates who are obviously neck to neck at the moment. Now, whoever wins this election will lead Peru's economy for the next 5 years. What are some of the economic goals of these two candidates?
Well, it's a really important time, and leadership is going to be required, and it's not going to be easy, in particular because Peru is a commodities-based economy, and commodities prices now are quite low. And so Peru's economy, which was doing quite well for a number of years, has slowed. It's still positive. It's not slipped into recession, but the economy has slowed. And so the next president is going to have to find ways to really jumpstart growth. And both candidates have talked about that on the campaign trail. So they're aware of that. They're looking forward to trying to do that. And I think that that's going to be the real challenge. If Pedro Pablo Kuczynski is actually the candidate who, in the end, does win the presidency, he's going to have an additional challenge because the legislature in Peru is dominated by the opposition party, or what will be the opposition party. So it's going to be doubly difficult for him, not just to promote and pursue some of the policies, but to actually get them through Congress. So a lot of compromise is going to be necessary.
So we know that Keiko Fujimori, for example, says that if she wins, she will increase public investment, support small businesses, increase productivity, so on and so forth. Some economists say that her plans could actually grow Peru's economy by 6% annually. How realistic is this really?
Well, I think it's an estimate, and certainly it's a goal, but there are a lot of things that have to break right if that's going to be the case. Clearly, investment into Peru is going to have to focus on issues other than commodities, as we've said. Infrastructure is a key aspect of that. And part of the issue in terms of Peru as well is going to have to be a continued march in terms of international economic integration. Peru already has a free trade agreement with the United States. It's part of APEC. It's part of the Pacific Alliance. I think Peruvians are counting on the Trans-Pacific Partnership as well to try to advance some of the growth that they seek. But you're also going to have to see increased integration with other neighbors like Brazil, like other countries in South America. There are a lot of gains from trade that could come from that direction. So in addition to the strategy that the candidates have talked about, I think that's another aspect that really needs to be explored.
So, Eric, you briefly touched upon foreign investment there. We know that the country needs more foreign investment, particularly in infrastructure projects across the board. How likely is this that we're going to see an increase in foreign investment if either of these candidates come into power?
Well, I think a lot has to do with the confidence of the international community to see who the candidates put around themselves as ministers and in charge of various agencies, and to see what sort of path they actually set once they've been put in office. But I think the international community, particularly with Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, would be quite comfortable. He certainly talks a good, he's very familiar, I should say, with the international community. He's been a Wall Street banker. He's worked at the IMF and the World Bank. He's been minister in Peru several times. So he certainly has those relationships. Keiko Fujimori is a little bit less of a known commodity, and certainly is known for her relationship with her father, who was president, of course, in the 1990s. There's some baggage there in terms of his legacy that could accrue to her. So she would have to show that she's independent and is really charting an independent path. The international community, I think, is going to see beyond the rhetoric and beyond what they propose on the campaign trail, what they really choose to do when they are in a position to govern.
So we know that Peru is one of the world's fastest growing economies, but it's also extremely dependent on commodities. Now, commodity markets are still quite volatile. Prices are continuing to slide. Where can these candidates look to in order to diversify the country economically?
Well, again, that's a key point, and whether it's increased economic integration with neighbors, whether it's infrastructure or other investment, those are some key aspects. But another thing that doesn't get talked about a lot, but really needs to get talked about more, not just with Peru, but with other countries in South America that face the same sort of trap, in other words, being overly dependent on commodities, is the fact that there is a lot of human capital in the country which really has not been given opportunities to really excel. In other words, there are jobs that are available in Peru, but the human capital and the workforce training and skills don't necessarily match the jobs that are available. So there really needs to be a concerted effort, in my view, on education, on job training, on skills development, and Peru has one of the highest levels of participants in the informal economy of any country in Latin America, where it's very high, broadly speaking. That has to be brought down. People have to move from the informal economy into the formal economy. That will provide job protections, it will provide better taxation, Social Security, the protections of the state, all kinds of things that, that really don't accrue to somebody if they're in the informal economy. So that's a real place where gains could be made as well.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was Eric Farnsworth, Vice President of the Council of the Americas in Washington, D.C.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, cctv-america.com.